When lives, money, or national missions are at stake, your architecture cannot be just a suggestion. It has to be a contract. It has to be binding. It needs to ensure that systems work together. Welcome to the Enterprise Architecture Radio. We are running a series of episodes in which we are talking about various enterprise architecture frameworks, and we are doing a contrast and comparison. I gave you a high-level overview of all the enterprise architecture frameworks in the first part. In the second part, I talked about TOGAF. In the third part, I talked about Zachman framework. And today, we are going to talk about the Department of Defense Architecture Framework, or DoDAF. Like the name suggests, DoDAF was created by the Department of Defense in the United States. And the focus of DoDAF was to ensure compliance, to ensure everything functions properly. This is specifically designed for organizations that are hierarchical in nature, that are bureaucratic in nature, where mission critical processes exist, and non-compliance could end up in life and death situation or even situations of national security. So there are three aspects of Department of Defense, and I'm not going to go too deep into it because I'm not a certified DoDAF architect. I don't even know if there is something called a DoDAF certification. I'm not entirely sure. But primarily at a very high level, it has three aspects, Department of Defense Architecture Framework. One is the operational view, second is the systems view, and third is the services view. Now this can be translated in TOGAF as the operations view is various processes. So you can call it the business architecture, right? Business architecture studies the various processes and the various business functions. And then it has a systems view, which is various applications. Roughly, I mean, not apples to apples, but still, are all the systems working properly or not? Are they aligned with each other properly or not? Are they integrated properly or not? And so on and so forth. And then you have the services view, and this is, service level agreements, governance, whether all the evidences are being produced for each service or not, compliance, etc. Right? So, in a sense, this is Department of Defense Architecture Framework. We map everything from these three perspectives. You map everything from operations perspective, where we look at all the different business processes, whether they are properly operating, whether they are properly operational or not. We look at various different systems or applications, whether they are working together or not, and so on. Now, let's talk about the differences between the three frameworks, right? On one end, you have TOGAF framework. It is the most matured, most comprehensive enterprise architecture framework, which contains within it an architecture development method, a content framework, a architecture capability framework, and then it has an ecosystem which is thriving and developing and constantly changing, which contains within it guidance and series guides and best practices and learnings from various architects and journals and everything. And then we have the Zachman framework, which is rich from a content standpoint. So it has a few ceremonies, but it doesn't have a matured architecture development method. So usually the Zachman framework is used in conjunction with the TOGAF framework, because the TOGAF framework has the ADM and all the other environmental aspects that are required to do enterprise architecture. But content framework wise, Zachman framework is a lot more matured than the TOGAF framework. So, it's much more organized. And then third is the Department of Defense Architecture Framework, which is specifically designed for hierarchical and bureaucratic organizations, usually not very popular anymore these days. Now, there are a ton of other enterprise architecture frameworks which exist out there, like there's the Pragmatic Enterprise Architecture Framework, there's the Federal Enterprise Architecture Framework, there is the NATO Architecture Framework, there is the Ministry of Defense Architecture Framework, there's a Gartner Enterprise Architecture Framework, and so on and so forth. There's a ton of architecture frameworks, but not all of them are very popular, and some of them are proprietary, right? So while there are a ton of enterprise architecture frameworks out there, you only need to understand the core foundation of what each enterprise architecture framework is, and there are commonalities between all these frameworks. You will find that all these frameworks are essentially trying to do two things. One is gather information about the organization, understand it so that you can build a better organization in the future. And second is set up a method, a step-by-step process by which you can collect that information. Now, not all the frameworks have a method, but doesn't matter. even if they don't have a framework, that is their ideal objective, that this is what we really want to do. We want to collect information about the organization and we want to build a better organization. And the differences are small nuances, right? They are collecting. How do they collect information? What are the artifacts that are being used? What are the documents that are being called? What is the terminology that is being used in each framework? All these are differences. But essential foundation is the same. So if you want to become an enterprise architect, and if you want to, or forget enterprise architect, what I feel is that don't aim for the title of enterprise architect. First of all, titles don't really matter. Ultimately, money is what matters. Okay, just kidding. Ultimately, impact is what matters. You want to create an impact within the organization. Now, whether you do it as an enterprise architect, as an official title of enterprise architect, or you want to do it as a senior leader within the organization, how does it matter, right? But I talk about enterprise architecture so much because I feel that that the knowledge of enterprise architecture is quintessential for all leaders, all specifically IT leaders or technology leaders, because it helps you understand how to change the organization, how to transform. Now, people have been talking about digital transformation so much, right? And it's a thing, right? People now, artificial intelligence is coming, and tomorrow something else will come, and we will constantly go through one transformation after the other. If you have an understanding of enterprise architecture, if you understand there is a baseline and a target, if you understand the various moving parts within the organization, and those various moving parts that I'm talking about are not very different. They don't change. What I'm trying to say is the type of moving parts don't change. There is still business functions. There will always be business processes. There will always be applications. There will always be technologies. Of course, in the past, we used to have monolithic applications. Now we have, SaaS applications or, microservices or what have you. That paradigm changes, but it's still applications, right? It's still systems. It's still technologies. It's still business, it's still functions, it's still processes. So those core fundamental building blocks do not change. So if you want to become a leader within the organization and create impact, the knowledge of enterprise architecture frameworks really helps. So don't study enterprise architecture frameworks because you want to become an enterprise architect. Study it because you want to impact the organization, because you want to become a leader that can easily go through transformations one after the other. So that's a comparison and a contrast between various enterprise architecture frameworks. I hope you have found it useful. Let me know if you find it a little bit repetitive. I will change that. If you find it too fast, I will change that. What I'm trying to say is, if you are enjoying it or if you're not enjoying it, let me know. And let YouTube know. Like, share and subscribe and comment. Once again, Enterprise Architecture Radio is not just a podcast. It's a collaboration platform. I'm trying to bring people together, and you can help me do that. So talk to each other, guide each other, help each other out, but have a ton of fun. That's the most important thing.